My name's Eric, and I'm 38 now. But the story I'm about to tell started almost 10 years ago, back when I thought life finally made sense. I had a stable job, ran my own small but profitable construction company in Denver. Nothing fancy, but I made enough to pay my bills, treat myself once in a while, and even help out my folks when they needed it. I was proud of that. I'd worked hard to build it all from scratch. That's around the time I met Caroline. She worked as a receptionist at a local dental clinic. Bright smile, auburn hair, quick with sarcastic comebacks. We met at a friend's birthday dinner. I spilled wine on her by accident and offered to pay for dry cleaning. She refused, laughed, and told me I owed her a drink instead. One drink became dinner, dinner became weekends together, and within a year, we were living under the same roof. I thought I hit the jackpot. Finally, a woman who didn't play games, who was grounded, warm, funny. We got married a year and a half later. Small wedding. Backyard ceremony at my parents' place. Just 40 people, homemade food, country playlist, and a whole lot of cheap champagne. I remember thinking, this is it. This is peace. And for a while, it really was. Our first few years were solid. We weren't rich, but we were happy. We cooked together, hiked in the Rockies on weekends, and binged-watched crime documentaries with terrible snacks. She made me feel seen in a way no one had before. But, like hairline cracks and drywall, problems started small. Barely noticeable unless you knew where to look. She started coming home later than usual. First it was work, then errands, then just needed some air. She stopped reaching for my hand when we watched TV. She laughed less, and when she did, it rarely had anything to do with me. I asked if she was okay. She said she was just tired. Then came the secrecy. Her phone was suddenly on silent all the time. She took it with her, even to the bathroom. If it buzzed and I looked over, her face would stiffen. Still, I convinced myself it was nothing. She was stressed, maybe even depressed. I offered to plan a weekend getaway. She said she was too busy at work. I didn't push. That's something I regret deeply now. But the real fracture came the night she told me she was pregnant. Her voice trembled slightly when she said it. I remember every single second of that moment, how I froze with the fork halfway to my mouth, how my first reaction was joy, then confusion, then something colder I couldn't name at the time. It was the beginning of the end. I just didn't know it yet. I wanted to be excited. I really did. When Caroline told me she was pregnant, I stood up from the table, walked around to her side, and hugged her. I even whispered, "We're gonna be okay." But deep inside, something in my gut twisted. She didn't smile like I expected. No glowing joy, just a tight nod and watery eyes. I chalked it up to nerves. The following weeks passed in a blur. Baby books, ultrasounds, nursery ideas, stroller reviews. I threw myself into prep mode because that's what I do. When emotions overwhelm me, I organize, build, fix. It's the only way I know how to stay sane. But Caroline wasn't glowing. If anything, she looked haunted. I tried not to read too much into it. First pregnancy, hormonal shifts, stress. It could be anything. Then came the night I walked into the living room and found her quietly crying while scrolling on her phone. She locked it as soon as she saw me and wiped her face like it was no big deal. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said too quickly. "Just a dumb video." But she wouldn't look at me. The day our daughter was born, I won't lie, I felt something magical at first. Holding her tiny body, hearing her cry, seeing Caroline exhausted but alive. It was the closest thing I'd felt to purpose in years. But then I saw her eyes. Green. Bright emerald green. Everyone on my side of the family has brown eyes. Caroline's eyes were hazel. I remember because I used to joke they change color depending on her mood. But green? Bright green? It stuck in my head like a splinter. For the first few days, I tried to bury it. Babies change, right? Newborns always look weird. I told myself I was being paranoid. But I started noticing more. The nose, the hair texture. Subtle things. Not wrong, just different. So I did what no new father wants to do. I bought a paternity test. I didn't tell anyone. I swabbed her mouth while she slept on my chest during nap time, sent the test in, waited 4 days that felt like 4 years. When the email arrived, my hands shook so badly I had to open it 3 times before the screen stopped blurring. 0.0% probability of paternity. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just sat there. I don't remember how long. Maybe hours. I thought of the first time I met her, of our wedding, of the ultrasound appointment where I kissed her stomach. I thought about all the times I'd defended her when my buddies made crude jokes about women who trap men. I thought about how I told my dad I wanted to be the kind of father he was. And then I thought about Mark, the one friend from work. The one who sent heart reacts to her Instagram stories. The one she swore was not even cute. That night, I didn't say anything. I fed the baby, kissed Caroline on the cheek, slept next to her like nothing had changed. But I knew I couldn't stay silent much longer.
They chose a coffee shop with too much daylight for lies. Caroline sat by the window, hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking. Mark arrived late, the way confident men do when they still believe time forgives them. He spotted her, smiled, then read the room and lost the smile. "Everything okay?" "No," she said. "Sit." He sat. She didn't fumble. "Lily may be your daughter." A sentence like that rearranges a man's face. Shock, offense, calculation, something like hope, then a quick inventory of exits, doors, responsibilities, the past. "Maybe," he said. "I need you to hear all of it," she replied. "I was wrong. I've told Eric. He handled it better than I deserved. We're going to mediation. We agreed you should know." He glanced around as if fatherhood might be reflected in the glass. "Does he know you're telling me?" "Yes, it was his boundary. You hear it from me, calmly." Mark leaned back, the chair complaining. "And what exactly are you asking?" "To show up," she said. "Not to fix, not to claim, to get information. To make decisions like a man who understands consequences." He looked at the door again. The oldest instinct in the world, run until the noise fades, walked up to his eyes and waited for permission. He didn't grant it. "What do I do first?" she said. "Talk to counsel. And if you want clarity, talk to a doctor. But not today. Today you hear me, and I go home and tell my daughter that her routine is the same." He exhaled, a sound that emptied a season. "Does she know anything?" "No," she said, "and she won't for now." He nodded, grateful for a mercy he hadn't earned. "Tell Eric I heard you." At home, I listened from the patio while Caroline spoke through the screen door. Her voice was steady, not brave, not broken, steady. When she finished, she stepped outside and sat on the step like a child who had finally done a hard chore. "He didn't run," she said. "Good. Now we keep our side quiet." Quiet didn't last. Opinions arrived faster than paperwork. A cousin texted, "Blood isn't fatherhood." A brother-in-law declared, "A real man stays no matter what." A friend from college wrote a paragraph about choosing love over ego and hit send like a gavel. People love courtrooms. They don't have to enter. I did not defend myself in a group chat. I made dinner. I returned a library book. I wrote to the mediator's office and asked for the earliest slot that didn't collide with Lily's nap. When Margaret, Caroline's mother, came by with polite groceries and a throat full of disappointment, I met her at the door. She took one look at the suitcase beside the guest room and nodded like a general counting losses. "You're keeping the house quiet." "I'm trying." "Good. I will not speak for my daughter," she added, and surprised me. "But I will not speak against you." In mediation, the room smelled like printer paper and restraint. The mediator didn't care about the romance of anyone's ruin. He cared about calendars and signatures. We established a temporary schedule: who drove, who cooked, who slept where. We codified things kind people think can manage without ink. Ink keeps kindness from collapsing when feelings change their minds. On the third session, the backlash reached a boil. My phone lit up with a message from a number I didn't save. "You abandoned a child." I typed and deleted a dozen responses, and then wrote the only one that could carry its own weight. "Lily's routine is intact. That is all you need to know." Caroline read it over my shoulder and didn't correct a word. That night, Lily fell asleep on my chest in the guest room while a storm tutored the gutters. I counted her breaths and tried to imagine a life where love and truth didn't shake hands like rivals forced into a photograph. In the morning, a short email from Mark. "I'll get advice. I won't make promises I can't keep. Tell her I wish her a good day." It wasn't courage. It wasn't cowardice. It was a beginning that didn't run. I poured cereal, braided hair badly, and got us to preschool 2 minutes early. Progress, measured in inches, still moves you forward.
The storm didn't blow the house down. It just tried every door. Family arrived with casseroles and verdicts. 3 voices rose above the rest. Margaret, blood isn't fatherhood, but lies aren't love. Hold the line. Caroline's aunt, a real man stays. My brother, maybe this isn't about DNA. Maybe it's about fear. I listened, thanked, and put every opinion on the porch where the weather belongs. Inside, we built a house out of paper. Temporary orders, health insurance dates, a calendar that protected Lily's bedtime like it was federal. Money routed through a single account, so the roof never argued with the lights. We used a shared email thread for logistics and copied the mediator, ensuring that anger was addressed correctly. I found a short-term rental 8 minutes away. The carpet was honest, and the neighbors minded their own business. The first night, I lay awake and realized that grief makes even silence sound crowded. I got up, wrote Lily a letter I wouldn't give her yet, and put it in a box labeled "For When She Asks." I did not publish my righteousness. I did not announce my pain. I checked the air filter, paid the water bill early, and learned which nights the trash had to go out in 2 places. Caroline and I became 2 professionals with a shared client named Lily. We met deadlines. We de-escalated. We learned to speak in specifics. Pick up at 5, lunch is packed, the white sweater is in her cubby. The online chorus kept singing. I stopped reading. Strangers have a way of borrowing your name for their wars. I kept mine at home. On a Tuesday, Mark asked to meet. He chose a park, daylight again, a place where fathers push swings and avoid eye contact. He arrived with shoulders that had finally learned the weight of consequence. He spoke to counsel and a doctor. "I'll follow the process. If I'm her father, he paused, swallowed, I'll learn the rest. You'll speak to Caroline about how. Lily's routine comes first. No surprises, no scenes. You don't test your courage on a 4-year-old. He nodded. I won't fail her by being brave at the wrong time. It wasn't absolution. It was another inch forward. Mediation turned real. We drafted the thing people think they can improvise, an end that doesn't break the child who outlives it. We wrote holidays into boxes with room for grace. We agreed to a therapist for Lily when the time came, a place where questions could land without shattering. At home, I took the guest room apart slowly, like a set after a final performance. The suitcase went into the closet. The photo of Lily on my chest stayed on the nightstand. I kept the door open. On the day the orders were signed, the sky refused drama. No thunder, no omen, just a decent blue. Caroline met me on the porch with a manila envelope and eyes that had learned to look straight at the truth. She said, I will tell her when it's time. I know, I answered, and I will be where I said I'd be. We didn't hug. We stood like neighbors who'd shared a fire and saved what mattered. That night, I made Lily pancakes shaped like initials she couldn't form yet. She ate the evidence and asked if mermaids wear their crowns when they sleep. I told her, yes, the good ones do. I slept for 6 hours without waking. It felt like finding a light switch in a dark room you built yourself.
Years do their quiet work. Seasons stack. Apartment carpets get replaced. Kids' shoes learn the language of stairs. I mailed a birthday card every year with no return address and a cartoon sun Lily used to draw with too many rays. I didn't sign it with anything that would force questions before they could stand up on their own. The box labeled, "For When She Asks," grew heavier. Letter after letter written at kitchen tables and in parked cars. Pages that told the truth like a steady hand, not a pointed finger. I didn't ask Caroline whether Lily saw them. Some mercies are not improved by status updates. I ran into Mark once in a hardware store, both of us holding the same brand of picture hooks like a joke neither of us wanted to tell. He nodded, I nodded. Two men who had learned the cost of names. He didn't brag, I didn't punish. We let a cashier ring up the evidence that people sometimes choose to hang things instead of breaking them. On a late September afternoon, 6 years after the day the email rearranged my life, I walked past a community art fair on my way to the barber. Kids had drawn families in bright chalk, triangles for dresses, square houses with impossible chimneys, stick-figure dogs with hilarious ears. I would have kept walking. Sir, a small voice said. I turned. A girl with green eyes and a front tooth, just thinking about wiggling, held out a piece of paper. Crayon. 2 figures. One tall with 2 long arms, one smaller with a crown. The caption in careful letters, me and Eric. I looked up at Caroline, who stood a few feet back, hands in the kind of pose you make when you're not sure if you're allowed to breathe. Mark hovered at the next booth, giving the space a man gives when he has learned not to take what isn't his. Hi, Lily said, like a person saying a word she had practiced alone. I wanted you to have this. I bent to her level. It's beautiful, I said. Thank you. She nodded, businesslike, and adjusted her crown. Do mermaids keep these on when they swim? The good ones do, I answered. Some promises remember themselves. We didn't stage a reunion. We didn't write a speech. Caroline's eyes asked a question. Mine answered with the smallest shake of a head. Not today. Not with headlines. Not with a crowd. Lily smiled like someone who had solved a riddle in her own time and decided to keep the prize. Okay, she said, satisfied, and darted back to a table where volunteers handed out stickers. Mark watched her run and did not look at me. That was a kindness, too. I stood there with a crayon drawing and the strange lightness that comes when a weight you've carried so long forgets your name.
On the walk home, I passed the park where swings still squeak like old violins. A father pushed a child and counted to 10. The child shouted, 11, and laughed at the victory. I put the drawing in the box with the letters and sat on the edge of the bed in the apartment that had learned to be a home. People ask me, sometimes with curiosity and sometimes with accusation, what I think I am to her now. I don't give them nouns. I give them a verb. I showed up. Not at every dinner table, not under every roof, but at the points that hold up a life. The day the house needed quiet instead of thunder. The nights a routine protected a small body's sleep. The morning a crown had to be answered with the truth. Love is not always a possession. Sometimes it's a standard you refuse to lower in the dark. I folded the drawing, poured a glass of water, and opened the window 2 inches. The street breathed. Somewhere, a child announced 11 again. I lay down without making a case for myself to the ceiling. The door hadn't slammed. It had settled on its hinges and learned to open without hurting anyone. That was enough.